so many prospects and have so many goal setting or strategy calls with potential clients. And they're like, oh, okay, so you work with people on a 12-week program. And I'm like, yes, 12 weeks till we launch. And they're like, okay, well, it's probably going to take me 12 weeks to get the stuff together, so I'll see you then. And I'm like, no, you won't. You haven't done it up until now. You're not going to do it without me, really. So it's progress over perfection in so many ways, because you just want to shake people, because no matter how skilled you are or how many runs you have on the board as a business coach, I don't know who you need to see, but you need to see somebody to get out of your own head. Because really, I get a lot of these clients who are earning $500,000, $400K, they're great coaches, they're booked out, they got coaches working underneath them, and they want to do X when. And it's when something happens. It's circumstantial. It's never their problem, or they don't assume responsibility. If you say, I'll do this when XYZ happens, you're now placing what you want to do in the hands of somebody else.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me, and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand, and damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility.
There we go. Jenna Davies, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
It's a pleasure. It's been an effort to get this organised between both of us.
It has been.
Being so busy, but I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you taking the time. Do you want to give everyone a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Jenna Davies, and I build fitness businesses. We have a company called Big Appetite. I work really closely with trainers and online service providers, truly, to grow and scale their business, essentially from 6 to 7 figures. We work with design, development solutions. We also do a lot strategy and advice and support around that. We've just built a tech portal, which we're really excited to load our clients into. My background is in sales. I started when I finished uni in a corporate sales role. I actually sold pest control and hygiene services to places like Accor, Westfield, and all the rest. And from there, I went into pharmaceuticals, got qualified as a trainer. Now I was selling sports nutrition, weight loss, and superfoods in pharmacy only. So my background is very strong from a sales point of view. Product marketing is also largely driven by sales teams and marketing in corporate pharmaceuticals. So that's kind of how it all started. And yeah, I got qualified along the way as a coach. I was hugely passionate about training, strength training, had my own little transformation in there. And here we are.
Amazing. I think there's so many rabbit holes that we can go down today, and we'll probably go down quite a few.
I got time.
I'm gonna hit you with a bit of a quote that, from just even speaking to you, just before we press record, and having listened to a lot of your content, that kind of, it resonates with me, that I feel like it describes where what you've done in business, and I guess your perspective on it. And it's, to methods there are many, and to principles there are few, and those that can understand the principle can design and create their own method. And I think that fits you.
Wow, I love that. I've never heard that before.
It's something that I feel like I resonate with, but having listened to a lot of your content, I feel like you've created your own path, and you've kind of just figured out a way to do your own shit, which is pretty damn cool.
Thank you.
So where does that kind of come from? And where do you think, like, what's the biggest portion in your, say, business career that kind of stands out, that you've had to kind of stick to a principle but create your own way?
Honestly, this is, in hearing and letting that sink in, it's really been there from the beginning. And I do believe integrity is everything. Your human values, your core values as a person will create whatever business and brand and environment and culture and job that you move into. And I've always had a very honest heart. I've always wanted to help people. And I really feel that the core principle of being genuine, which is often oversaid or said a lot, I don't want to say overused because it's a great principle, but genuinely being true to what I say I'm going to do or deliver on. So no matter what you sell, you obviously have to genuinely believe that it does what it says it does. first and foremost, right? Or continue to improve it and refine it so that it does what it says it does. And then the second simple thing is like human behavior principles, like I think when I was in sales, you learn a lot about reading a room, reading a person, pacing a conversation. I wouldn't call it manipulation, but it's definitely persuasion. And I think understanding that no two people are the same, no two journeys are the same, and being able to communicate to people to tell a message, that's how you make an impact. Like, you've ever worked with somebody and you can just tell when they get it. So it's like genuinely wanting to help people and then seeing when they get it. It's like literally product and marketing to me.
What do you feel like is a more important process for a business, product or marketing?
It's chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
Look, products, I would say it starts with product in the sense that you have to solve a problem and deliver on what you say it's going to do. You want to maintain a need or be needed continuously, and you want the product to be so good it sells itself. But also, what a hard slog. Like, how long would it take for us to all figure out about iPhones if one dude got one first and nobody told the world about it, right? I mean, it's a pretty good sharing device, but my point is marketing is an important means of sharing a message and raising awareness for how good the product is. And it's fueled by how good the product is as well.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone was to start, like you said, you mentioned that you like largely deal with fitness businesses. If someone was to start with like the perfect product in mind, what have you seen to be some of the pitfalls that a lot of people kind of come to you with that are just the easy levers to pull?
They started with the product.
Yeah.
Start with the person.
It's a chicken or the egg, like.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to know your market and you've got to know what they want. So anyone can have a business, right? Anyone can be a PT. You can get qualified in, I think, like 3 minutes nowadays. But like, I don't even know if you need to be anymore. But anyway, let's say you get qualified and you're in the gym and you're getting clients and they're coming to you and you think, I want to really start my online business, but what the hell do? I got to grow my Instagram, right? That's like, wait a second. Who are you trying to attract? So think hard for a second. Who actually pays their trainers that needs a trainer? Probably not your average Fitspo girl around you. So I would ditch that market. Second of all, it's like, okay, there's a lot of people here that don't know how to eat that need help. Like my dad still thinks mayonnaise is fattening. So
my dad still thinks that like a couple bowls of ice cream won't hurt.
Same. Go figure. He just attacks me when I'm competing. But like, you got to think about where's the opportunity in terms of, obviously, ideally a big group of people, but who am I passionate about? Who do I care for? How can I help them?
Do you think a lot of people, because like I speak to a lot of business owners in a similar circumstance where they almost overdo the thought process of like what market first before they even have any proof of concept? Do you think that's something that can get overdone?
Yeah, definitely. I honestly see this a lot in our business. I get so many prospects and have so many goal setting or strategy calls with potential clients. And they're like, oh, okay, so you work with people on a 12-week program. And I'm like, yes, 12 weeks till we launch. And they're like, okay, well, it's probably going to take me 12 weeks to get the stuff together. So I'll see you then. And I'm like, no, you won't. You haven't done it up until now. You're not going to do it without me, really. So it's progress over perfection in so many ways, because you can only create the best product or service experience that you are capable of conceiving, thinking of. And that is based on the thoughts and the information in your brain right now. But how would that change after you've put your first lot of clients through it? What would you learn? Right. And the result that you're selling is indifferent or unchanged, whether you have an app or a spreadsheet. You're telling me you're not going to achieve the same result, like weight loss, build muscle, get a pro card, whatever it is. You don't need, people were doing it long before what we have available for us today. So the way in which you do things really should be fluid, because you don't want to be married to the process. You got to be married to the outcome. And that is how you can, learn and keep moving. And I think that perfection mentality, that I'll have it all figured out thing, I don't know if it's a fearful mindset or a scarcity mindset. They're fearful of failing, but it's definitely not a growth mindset.
Arguably, though, that's not the worst. Like growth mindset, great, but arguably, like a fearful mindset. Like I know for me, like all the biggest changes we've made in business have been motivated more by fear and necessity for change than the desire to be better. Like all the things that have, like every time I've been like back up against the wall is where I've made shit work.
Yeah, I can 100% relate to that. I went to therapy about this. Like,
Yeah, same.
I'm not even.
I had a tendency to put myself in corners purposefully just to prove that I could get the fuck out of them.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, until a man takes on more than he possibly can, a man will never do all that he can. And there's a version of that saying. I don't know if that's exactly it, but I was in the same place, and there is a difference. There's a difference between having to, whether it's a false sense of reality because you've created this need, but you actually get shit done. Like,
Yep.
I believe we all work best a little bit stressed. We do actually, but I've also done the most amazing things on the back end of really fucking hard times in my life, and I haven't been able to achieve that level of success or greatness, depending on what you classify that as, unless I've had a stressor or a trigger, right? That fearful mindset of I'm going to lose it all unless I do this is a really huge driving factor. But it's not saying that there's a problem with the fearful mindset. There's a problem with your motivational system, your intrinsic motivator. Why can't you believe in love and light and creation to have the same ferocity to attack your goals? Why
the feedback loop is like broken.
Yeah, like if you genuinely believe that you will lose everything and that is why you can do phenomenal things like people do with adrenaline when they're on their last legs, essentially, why can't you believe in yourself equally on the opposite side of it and say, I know that I will do amazing things when I do XYZ?
Yeah. What do you think's been more powerful for you?
Definitely fear in the past, but in working to reframe that, I had to. Like, I've had things happen in my life that people didn't have happen to them necessarily. Like, whatever. I've had stuff happen that I've had to respond to, and the worst of it was I quit my job to start my company in January. And in February, my mum passed away. And in March, we went into a global pandemic. And in June, my auntie passed away. So, like, I couldn't go to my family, my dad, South Africa, whatever. But I used that to get out of it, to get, to work and get myself out of it. And that was probably one of the biggest driving forces of a lot of action that I probably would have not taken as fast, or, you kind of take your own time with things. But on the flip side now, since that time, I can honestly say, and I'm like pretty proud to say that I'm leading like with love and doing things to create the ideal life because I want it now and I believe I'm worthy of it.
I think that's extremely powerful. I don't think it's very common, like very uncommon in the way of business and the uncommonness of like, I guess you're leveraging emotion positively. Like you've gone through some hard shit and absolutely horrible stuff that I can't imagine going into a lockdown post that.
Yeah. Living
Lockdown was bad
alone.
enough. Yeah. Like I'm the same boat. Like I live alone as well, but like I was lucky that I was able to just like dive into this and I didn't have external stresses as well. I don't know how well you like, or like if you even intentionally channeled that energy to kind of build into the launch of like, or the growth of Big Appetite, but assuming you did, because the energy had to go somewhere.
Yeah.
What were the big plays of, or what were the biggest points of leverage? Like if we're talking like growth mindset, like working from a position of love and trying to improve, what were the bigger points of leverage that you gained from that?
I definitely think that the perception of stress, no matter the stressor, is very different. Like, so yes, different triggers can arise, but the level of stress that arises as a result, it becomes the same, right? Depending on what it is. So for us, I'm not saying it was the same thing, but starting Big Appetite, there was this starting from scratch feeling. And I think there definitely was a fear of failure. Like, two people I mean, it's funny because it's momentary. Like in one side, you're like, fuck yeah, this is so exciting. We're onto something. It's like, it's literally like two kids being like, what's that quote in Step Brothers? Want to build a, I don't know.
Oh yeah, we're the same. So much room for activities.
Yeah. No,
yeah, you want to build, what's it? What do you want to build a tree house or something?
Yes. Want to build a tree house,
Sandcastle.
sandcastle, one of those two. God, I'm failing at that one. But it's like, there's this energy that comes from two people believing in each other and being super excited. And then there's also personally for myself, it's like, it was super exciting having that. And then on the flip side, there's this, what I've done is always worked and I've got it really great. Am I going to lose everything? Like, what if it doesn't work? And then that fear of failure kind of starts it's not until you get that validation, which is money coming in and people waiting to work with you, that you're like, okay,
I got the good plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys build Big Appetite? Probably something you maybe not have been asked before, but did you guys build up a Big Appetite the same way that you would build a service-based coaching business?
Yeah, we did, really. Like, if you think about it, well, yes, everything that we are doing is everything that we sort of advise. And it's not that we advise every business in a certain type of way, but first of all, it's establish product market fit, put something out there, test the waters, survey your audience, research what they need. Obviously we had prior businesses that we could leverage understandings of. We were very in touch with the market, but it was like, identify the market, name the problem, create a solution, sell it. We sold it before it even existed. And then it's start to figure it out, right? And we sort of map out the journey, and there's a bones and a framework, and we were manually servicing clients, as in Jade and I both have meetings still with our clients one-on-one. But then it was like, okay, we'll discuss this. And it became a framework. Then we had documents after sessions and processes. And we started to build it by doing it. So instead of doing it to build it and then realizing, actually, you asked me these questions, these are answers you need. Now it's like, eventually you get to a point where, like, they always ask us this by week 4, or everyone in this state.
Frame it.
Exactly. So now it's like definitely something that has been refined, and we've leveraged tech and platforms and systems to make it more scalable. And now we've built our own, which is essentially, depending on the pathway you want to go down, you build, the business should build itself.
It can become like auto-regulated.
Well, yeah. And like, if you are validating the offer by selling it and learning from feedback and evolving it, and then selling it and evolving it and then selling it, then the profit that you get from the business can then start to build the scalable version of that business as well.
Yeah. See, what you've just described there really comes back to exactly what I said at the start. Like, the only rule is there's no fucking rules, right? Exactly. So like, you sold the product before you even really had the product, had proof of concept, and then developed it further from actual feedback rather than just like subjective thoughts of, oh, this will be great. Yeah. And so many businesses I talk to do this thing where, like, I'm going to launch this new portion of my product, I'm going to create this new ebook. Like, well, do people even want it? Like, have you created this desire for it? Is there actually a demand?
You're right. And, I see that a lot.
Well, I see it nearly every day that, like, let's say you've got an experienced coach, someone that's doing, they've been in the industry 3-4 years, and they're science backed and they understand stuff, and they in theory would be able to cope with more advanced clientele, but they are still in the process of cash flow and just dealing with the people that they attract, which is misaligned a little bit, right? What their skill set could potentially cope with is not being serviced yet. And they often come to me like, oh, I'm going to create this new resource and go into all the depth of refeeds and understanding all the hormonal functions. Like, well, the people that you're attracting right now that are paying your bills won't even read that. And yes, I get that breaking into a new market, you're going to need to do new things, but what about the people that pay the bills?
Yeah, this is definitely something I see a lot of, and I just want to shake people, because no matter how skilled you are or how many runs you have on the board as a business coach, I don't know who you need to see, but you need to see somebody to get out of your own head, because really, I get a lot of these clients who are earning $500,000, $400K. They're great coaches. They're booked out. They got coaches working underneath them, and they want to do X when, and it's when something happens. It's circumstantial. It's never their problem, or they don't assume responsibility. if you say, I'll do this when XYZ happens, you're now placing what you want to do in the hands of somebody else. Instead of saying, I'm going to
control.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like what often happens is it's golden handcuffs. You make enough money to get by. You maybe make enough money to call yourself successful, depending on what you call successful.
Yeah.
And then you just you talk about what you want to do and what you're going to do and what you could do and what you will do, but you don't actually do it. And it doesn't actually take long because you've built this great business. I actually released a podcast today on my own podcast about building a business, but because you've released this great business and you've got this data that you've been building, you've got this service experience, you've got this framework, whether it's an app or all your documents to service, let's say, Gen Pop clients, but you actually want to get out of it and go into peak performance athletes. You now tell yourself, if I've got all this to get that, I need all this to get that. And it's not true. It's like starting a business all over again within a business. And you just have to think, what did I do at the start? So, you know, something I said on the podcast was like, just test your positioning, your packaging, which is your messaging in your marketing content, the way that you speak on your stories and what you say on graphics. And maybe you just say, I'm looking to work with peak performance athletes, or I'm looking to work with competitors who are stepping on stage for the third time and they've done it twice. They don't want to do that again. They don't want to do it. You know what I mean? And now you just change your messaging. You gauge the interest, that market demand that validates it. And then you kind of look at realistically the what and the how, which is probably indifferent, and you can start to move things over instead of having to do it all before it's like
I look at this from a different lens. I would look at that from more so, you're right, it's a business within a business, right? And that's not very efficient. You're going to go a completely new market. I would just hire someone to replace you to deal with the Gen Pop and then go where you want to go.
Definitely. You could definitely do that. Or like collaborating with experts or people to create content or to coach for you. Like you could definitely look at ways to do that. And I just think that also the systems are duplicatable, you know?
Yes.
And if that's going to take you time, you don't even necessarily have to like hire a coach. It's looking at what's the work that needs to be done. You could like get a VA, maybe you get a developer for a bit, maybe you get a contractor, and it's project management, really.
What's your I guess ethos in project management or delegation? Do you just like delegate out the stuff you're inefficient with, or the things you don't like?
A little bit of both. I think the things that you're inefficient with can be a secret time sucker because you love it.
Yeah.
So I love spreadsheets. I love Excel. I'll spend a lot of time in Excel. I'll be a calculator for everything. But then eventually I found a guy who builds mad spreadsheets. And now I'm like, hey, I need you to calculate this, this, and this. And I want a pie chart there. And now I get a spreadsheet back and I'm like, that's mad. But I know what to ask for.
So much faster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy Excel, but I had to break up with it. So I think we have a framework. It's a very simple framework. It's not our framework. It's like a common framework, I believe. But it's the stock exercise. And it's like, what are you doing that you are good at? What do you love to do and you're good at it? What do you love to do, but you're bad at it? Sometimes you also have to break up with that one. What are you bad at doing and you hate doing? And what are you good at doing, but you hate doing? Yes. And it's sort of looking at like, okay, first of all, it's important that you like a job. If somebody says to me, I love face-to-face clients, I'm not going to tell them to get rid of face-to-face clients, but I will say we've got to meet in a happy medium. Second of all, you are your most productive asset. Like you said, hire someone. Okay, well, you have to make time and have time to lead a team, actually be an actual leader, a manager, hold people accountable, an educator, and the quality control in the business. So you need to take away the tasks, like essentially assign a dollar value to your time and make it whatever you want it to be, whatever you think you're worth. Don't let anyone else tell you less. If you want $1,200 an hour, that's the time that you're worth. If you think that, fine. And then think, okay, so what am I doing that I could have done for less than $1,200 an hour? And
how much are you costing yourself?
Yeah, and delegate it, because that then gives you the opportunity to look after number one, which is yourself, to think clearly, to give people a good experience. Like when you hire a team, you need to like them and you want them to like you. You know,
You'd hope so.
Yeah. So you got to be a good person. You don't want to be stressful, unorganized, and hard to reach. It's not a good way to onboard somebody.
Do you think what do you think this would be? What's a great opportunity for growth for most people? You said you're getting, I'd say, an average of people, but like striving to make their first 7 figures. What do you feel like the biggest outsource that most people should do but don't?
The biggest outsource. That's a great question. Like the role that they should hire, that most people should do. Well, if you look at the arms of a business, let me think to this one. If you look at the arms of a business, you have your product creation, service control, marketing and sales, customer service, accounting, definitely accounting, outsource that one. You'll do yourself a favor. I have a great accountant. Shout out to Andrew Wilson. And then if you have, you've obviously got your promotional content in terms of if you're doing any paid or media, email marketing, and then client service, like your actual service provision. So I think I might have jumbled that order. But in terms of what you should outsource, it should really be the things that are not the best use of your skill set and the things that might make the most sense, that are commercially viable. There's a lot of things that I think you can learn to do where sometimes you just got to put your ego or you just got to give it a crack. Like it might take you 4 hours or 2 hours to build or fix something, but once it's done, it's done. If you have to go through back and forth to explain things to people, that's also a timely process. So things that cost the most of your time. And generally I find that is customer support, which is why I love having like a community. I do love supporting my clients directly, but I find that if they can get support before they come to me, I can help them with the really sort of more high level stuff.
Yep.
And then I would say graphics. Like, don't be doing your own graphics. This is your product packaging. You know, if it takes time, then it's a time sucker. But the way that you package yourself can determine how you're positioned, essentially. And you don't necessarily need a whole heap of graphics to get things out there, but you want to make sure that you've got a strong brand presence.
For a very long time, I agree with that now, but for a long time I wouldn't have.
I'm glad you agree with that, because I was like, God, that's a hard question.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because I can say from experience, for a very long time I didn't think that graphics mattered, and at the time for me they didn't. But then until they mattered, they did, if that makes sense. And it was like, for a long time I thought brand is something that you build. Brand is not something that you show through colors and logos and packaging, right? And your positioning in general. And then it wasn't until the business started to grow, and then I had such a poor representation of previous brand that wasn't up to standard of what our reputation was. They both weren't synonymous. They both weren't the same.
Yeah.
And had I spent time previously to put more effort into like packaging, positioning, and so on, this new reputation that we had come into after 4 or 5 years of doing the thing would have actually made sense when people scroll back through our things and like, oh no, this just looks shit.
Yeah. And, I think there is a new age way of doing business. There definitely is new school and old school, literally. Like I go to university and I learn about the 7 Ps of marketing and packaging, product packaging. You don't hear people in our industry or in our world talking about packaging or positioning, right? You might talk about graphics, you talk about socials, you talk about content marketing. When you run a service, or a service-based business, or you are a personal brand, you are the product. You are the reason people pay you. You are the product. People buy you. And so branding, it's like kind of like building a muscle with graphics, which is your packaging. Because every time somebody sees your content, and we have ad blindness, we are so fatigued. We see so much media in the social platforms that we look at, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, that every time somebody sees your logo, your color palette, your style guide, your imagery, they might subliminally be seeing it. And really, every time they see it, you're building that muscle. It's a touch point. It's frequency and repetition. So when they actually notice it, they need you. And they actually did studies about this, like in terms of how many times it takes for somebody to notice they saw an ad. And this was in traditional out-of-home media, I believe. And it was a long time ago that I read this, but they said eight times for somebody to actually notice that was the ad on the bus or whatever it is. Like because you see it and you're not actually paying attention. Humans are really unconscious. So your graphics are like a really strong, your graphics, your persona, the way that you sort of show up, that consistency is really strong.
And we can assume like if that was out of home media, like buses and signs and stuff, we can assume now with social media that would be compounded infinitely. And it's no longer going to be like 8 exposures, it's probably more like 80.
Yeah.
And because we're so, like, you're right, we're so numb to it. We see it every day, see it every minute.
Yeah. And I think the problem is like a lot of people don't stick to it long enough. So you get a lot of coaches, they launch a 12-week thing. Even if they stick to it for 12 weeks, they're like, okay, now summer's coming and I'm going to change the colors and I'm going to wear this bikini. And I'm like, you know, and it's like, you just look like you again. But the thing that you stand for, those core values, the edge, the brands that you're trying to build just gets washed away. And it's like you all over again, you know, and that's how it's like, if you want to build credibility, you kind of want to position yourself as being consistent. People trust consistency. Nobody likes a surprise, like, more or less.
And I would assume that's very, like, to, I guess, create a bit of a relation to that for coaches. Like, you've got clients that don't want to stick to an 8-week program, and or you keep telling them, like, no, you just got to stick to it. It's progression. You need more data to track. And then it's the same with your business.
Yeah, honestly, it's so true. I had a meeting with a client before this, and she was on one of my webinars the other day, and she's just like, it's so crazy. I just miss the accountability. She's coming back on board, and she's like, I just miss working with you. I miss being told what to do. And I'm like, she's like, it's just like my clients. I'm like, see, because we're humans. It's like what I said to you before about principles, human behavior principle. Like, at the end of the day, it's like to be seen and heard, to be loved and to belong and
understood
and to be understood. So no matter what you sell, like, it's kind of coming back to fulfilling those core needs. And repetition and frequency, it's a principle.
I think as well, it gives you data. Like, if you have enough, like, objective data to prove that what you believe is true or untrue, you can actually start to make some progress that isn't just based on how you feel.
Yep.
Like, we've got data in the business that's 10 years long, and I can look back over it and go, okay, well, when we start to attract clients between, say, 23 and 26 that are female, this is the type of pricing strategy that has worked previously based on the data. And then if we look at inflation, we add the two, cool, here's our new pricing structure for this type of clientele.
Yep.
And it's not subjective. It's me just going, this is what's worked. Let's add in inflation. Let's add in brand recognition and brand equity. Cool. That's our minimum rate now.
Yeah.
And having data over a long period of time has saved me so much fucking emotion.
Yeah. Well, let the data drive you. And this is like what we were talking about with I love the synergies here with the product in terms of, do you wait until it's perfect? Well, why would, like, you could create the perfect products with the data that drives you to do it. Right?
Yeah. But most people just aren't really willing to do that, though. It takes too much time.
And then they learn the hard way and they try again in 12 weeks time. Right? It's just like, how many people do you know that sign up for a coach and they get to week 9 and they kind of like start with somebody else again in 6 weeks later because that coach was shit, and then they kind of realize, oh, actually it's me.
Yeah, maybe you're the problem.
Yeah, it's you got to watch out for that validation, instant gratification. It'll get you.
Absolutely. Where do you feel like, I'm glad you brought up Threads there with so many different things at the moment. Do you feel like Threads is a big opportunity for people at the moment?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I would say it's a big opportunity. I love the way that so many people jumped onto it. I love the way
like 10 million users in like 7 hours.
Yeah.
Wild.
I saw somebody write, I'm so happy Threads is here. I feel like this is for Australia and New Zealand. Twitter was just for America. And I think, like, that's not actually like true that it was created that way, but I love that people are getting involved. And I love that the way that people buy into things, like a little bit of an Elon Musk Twitter war going on. I think that it's a really great way to reach people who are interested in what you have to say. Like, I don't know if this is an accident yet or not. We'll find out. I just followed all the people that I follow on Instagram, on Threads, because it allowed me to do that. But it's kind of like a broadcast, right? Like having a broadcast channel on Instagram allows you to send a message to a group of people who are like really targeted and interested in what you're saying. Like having the notes on the messenger screen. I don't actually have that on mine, but I think it's going to prompt more content creation. I think Instagram and TikTok have given rise to authors. They're calling them now like authors and creators of content. to create these little mini home movies, and TikTok are now paying people to create ads because we're really powering creators, and the world is going to become a much more creative place. Like the ideas of tomorrow are going to be so far more rampant and frequent because of how creative I feel that people are starting to think, and the ability to express yourself versus fitting into the mold is really happening. And I love to see that. And I think Threads in a way allows everyone to have a say. I think it allows everybody to say what they're thinking. And I think it's like anything, it depends on uptake. And what do you think about Threads?
I just had a thought while we were talking about that, because I hadn't actually put too much to it. I thought, oh, it's cool. I can do some brain dumps throughout the day. It's just like a more, I guess, lower barrier to entry. Like I've got Twitter, but I don't use it. I'm like, oh, cool. Like familiar-ish people on here, people that I already follow, people that I might already have connections with will see it. So I was like, okay, I'll start. But an interesting thing that you just sparked, where we're going to become a far more creative world, right? And if you look at the development of AI at the moment, which is heavily based off information and logic, it makes me wonder if like all of this promotion of creation is just to eventually have more data for AI to learn creativity and opportunity.
It sure is. Like we're now just going to start plugging our thoughts back into the internet so they can read more about what we're thinking. That the American government admitted to buying data from Facebook to make AI, and they were looking at how Twitter essentially, I post on Twitter, and obviously I watched this documentary talking about the Trump election and things, and the way that AI was reading Twitter. So AI I think ChatGPT was reading Twitter posts to understand how people think about certain things. And then now you can use AI to make predictions. So people like, it's like having the polling system, public knowledge almost. Like if you can ask it to predict for you based on what it can read in real time, that's like having a crystal ball into the thoughts of Australia. If you actually think about it, if you have something significant happen, like an election, and you've got people talking about it, sharing their thoughts, which they do, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
And people start, and then it's live feeding real time. How can AI not be able to tally that up faster than the polling booths?
Yeah, see, that's pretty damn scary. It's cool, but it's scary. I think as far as a small thought on it, I think like very rare that we get an opportunity that we've got an opportunity realistically in the last 10 years to be on a new app that probably is going to have a very, very large user base within the first 24 hours. Like it's not very often that Australia has been like, cool, new app, and you're going to be in the first day, pretty much all of your friends are going to be on this thing. I think it'd be silly not to capitalize on it and use it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think from a business perspective, it's wise, but I don't know if it's going to be the make or break.
I don't think so. I think it's great for personal branding. Like I see it like Twitter in a sense, where you are a personal profile. People follow people. I don't know how brands can make announcements on Threads. Sure. You can share thoughts on Threads. Sure. I'm not saying you can't. I'm leaving this one open to the jury. I'll come back to it. But like, I feel that it's the humor. It's the sound bites of your thoughts. Like, here's a one-liner. Here's something cynical. Here's something reactive. It's all to spark a reaction. And I think it's a really great short, sharp tool to do that, and to start a conversation. And that's what marketing is like. Or you want to start conversations either internally where people are like, I think I need that product, I'm going to go get it. And sales essentially is starting conversation. So it's a great way to start a conversation and have a look at market demand. Like you could gauge, let's say you want to create content for the week, or you're thinking of creating a product, validate it by posting something about the problem or the solution on Threads and see what the response is, see what the language is, and then create a campaign around that. I'm really interested.
That's a really easy tool. Good feedback loop, fast feedback loop too.
Exactly. So you want to validate an idea, put it on Threads. Like imagine if you had a 12-week program that guaranteed you'd lose 10% of your body weight in 12 weeks. What would you do? Right?
A discussion, and then you see what people say.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a great way to gauge interest. But I'm actually really interested in the TikTok shop. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
So TikTok Shop has just launched in the UK for testing, and they do have ByteDance have filed for authority or the ability to release it in America, although America said that they won't, but it's essentially set to rival Amazon. So
Interesting.
Facebook is rivaling Twitter essentially. TikTok is ready to take on Amazon, and I'd be so curious to see how they'd go with distribution centers, obviously within people's nations, owned by ByteDance, within our nations, people's. But TikTok Shop is a function that allows you to shop what you see. So ever seen the trend, TikTok made me do it, TikTok made me buy it? Wow. There was something like dairy feta sales, Devondale Farmers said that feta sales went up like 700% within 24 hours in Australia when the pasta trend went off. And you can fact check that one, but it was something outrageous.
Yeah, wow.
And there's other things that's like really big in the beauty space where you go to Priceline and you can't get any random thing anymore or something random because it blew up on TikTok. So now they're going to have TikTok Shop so that you can buy it directly on TikTok.
I've got a friend who his whole business is run off TikTok. It's product based and it's very niche. And he launched a product, and within like 4 weeks, product has gone viral. And for 6 months, he sold product just running very, very low cost of acquisition ads through TikTok. And 6 months later, he had one of his clients come through and be one of the purchasers of the product, like, hey, can I buy the business? And figure sale, just great business. But
I love that.
Purely from TikTok. And it's like those sort of opportunities aren't really common like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, didn't exist. And the virality that's possible is it's interesting because like that's where we've actually, like even in Limestone, we've done that. We've tried to create TikTok to be a place where we are far more frequent than we are with Instagram. And not even just through ourselves, but through like a couple sponsored clients and stuff that just continuously post great content for us. And that has been the biggest return on investment, even though we're not necessarily paying for it. We're not doing paid advertising, but just investment in time has been incredible.
How do you manage that? I'm asking you some questions.
What specifically?
How do you manage the time investment required to set up that side of the business? Because I find personally, like leading a business, servicing clients, I'm sure with TikTok, but with investing in paid, there's a little bit of trial and error. You got to have like the funnel or the lead gen system set up, and then obviously delegating that to somebody to manage it. Did you hire it and bring it in house? Did you hire that role?
To be honest, the most best definition of luck that I could ever give you, because
you make your own luck.
Yes, we do, but sometimes you step into some as well, I believe. I think you make your own luck of what you do with it, but sometimes the opportunities, like it's like opportunity is a moving target. If you don't take a strike, like you'll miss it. We striked when there was opportunity, but the outcome was definitely unpredictable. We're very, I'll say blessed that I made a decision a couple of years ago to get a private space that no one can come train in, that we can produce more content than every portion of our competitors. So we have film crew in here, editing crew that will, whenever we want to film, whether it's a full day, half a day or so on, or multiple times a week, we can just pump out more content than everyone. And then we had a couple clients go viral on TikTok with their own journey, bring them into our space, co-brand it, and then bring them on as essentially either affiliates or coaches. It has essentially resulted in us outsourcing content completely.
Wow,
so I just set KPIs. I just set KPIs around how much content needs to be posted, created, and how much time needs to be allocated to be in here to film, and then the rest kind of just happens like clockwork.
The KPIs, do you hold them accountable? Like, do you have a framework for that? Like, do you do like weekly meetings? Do you give them reference?
I do now. I didn't.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way. I'd have KPIs and then we just meet every month. Like, oh, are they working or are they not? Whereas now it's like, okay, I'm a big believer is like, as much as I love training and I mostly train to put on more muscle and I want to be the big alpha dude. I realized at the beginning of running a business, I may have been that, but I couldn't have the hard conversations. So really, how quote unquote alpha am I if I am not able to have the hard conversations and just push it down the road? So now I just focus on weekly hard conversations. It's like almost my mission is to have one hard conversation a week, and those KPIs are referenced pretty hard. And then if they're not met 2 weeks in a row, we just performance review and fix it.
Yeah. And it's not a performance review on the team. It's more so the content, right?
on the content and potentially on the process.
Yeah.
So like where is the communication falling down, or where is the inefficiency? Where is something that could be automated? Where is something that you need more input, or how can we increase your output?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's where like I think it has been the biggest development for me in business in general, is just learning how to actually manage that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think
So many people would benefit from that.
I think as well, it's like leadership and leadership of teams, or managing your own time. Like even if you are your team and you're a solopreneur and you have these ideas to experiment with, like you obviously need to gather the data to learn from. You got to start. And I think it's kind of like a lot of the time people think, how can I be doing any more? Like I'm already working, I'm already servicing clients, I need help. And it's like, well, you can't get help essentially unless you know how to share the load. You're ready to hire somebody, or you delegate. So you need to still check yourself for a minute and go, this is the core problem I'm going to address, and I'm going to try X, Y, Z. And then whether it's like TikTok ads or hiring somebody or whatever it is, you have to make that decision. You have to choose to make time to work on your business, or to assess that. And I think back then you made the right decision of getting a space. Did you get it before COVID?
It was a lockdown purchase. It was post lockdown. Melbourne gyms were pretty much closed and non-existent. And I was very lucky that like throughout COVID, I was able to get access to a really nice gym with really nice equipment. And I got used to that luxury of being able to train in this open warehouse with not many people around. And then lockdown finished and gyms opened, and there was like density limits in the gym. So we had to wait in line, and I was waiting in line at like 7 o'clock on a night in the rain, and I like, no, fuck that, I'm going to go get a place, and did so the next day. So
Stunning.
A little bit of impulse, but
yeah, well, it's like also problem solution, and it's the problem that, I mean, obviously it was magnified at that time, but it's still there. So well done.
Yeah. I think from just I saw it, at some point content would have been the growth bottleneck. And if I didn't want to go down the road of paid marketing, I'm not against paid marketing. I just think there's so much more that can be done organically, and I don't want to move from that until I've exhausted that. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to put myself in a position where I can exhaust it as fast as possible.
100%.
Go from there. But content's obviously a big part of what you talk with clients, yeah?
Yes.
Do you consider yourself first a marketer, a content creator, a mentor, or a saleswoman?
It's a good question. I definitely don't call myself a content creator. I don't actively, purposely create any content. Like, actually, no, that's a lie. Like, I obviously have a podcast and I create content for my clients because I want to help them. Like, I literally will create, if I do something, I'm like, I'll give this to you. I'll make it for you. You could benefit with this. I need to get better with my own personal content personally. Like, I'm not really like putting in any time to figure out how to grow on TikTok. And I don't mean how to grow. I just mean how to make reels. Like, I have ideas in my head that are really cool, and I just put them on my story. I put a lot on my story. So I would say I'm a sharer. Like, I think I really have a passion for sharing a vision, sharing a message, sharing a story, sharing time, sharing energy, like with people who want great things. So definitely working to be the best leader I can be, to lead a team to grow, to lead the team that carries the business forward, to lead other people to take the risks and make the relevant necessary decisions to build their dreams, and to lead the clients that I have to continue to push and chip away at their goals and building their vision. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I think I don't want to be a business coach. I don't want to be a mentor that sits here and says, go do that, go do this and come back to me. Like, I really care about immersing myself in a business and being a part of the team. And I love the way that we do that, like a Big Appetite with our developers and our designers. They sort of like, once you come on and into our system, we are here for you to support you. And any idea that we have for you, we do it. And then we teach you how to do it, because it's like saying to a kid, like, go read a book, and they can't read it yet. Like, and I think the biggest thing with getting advice in this space, and don't get me wrong, your systems don't have to be too complicated, but a lot of it comes down to confidence. And education is the greatest way to be confident. You need to learn how to do what to do and why. Like that's how you can learn confidence.
Mhm.
And when you are told what to do and then you have to go and do it, it doesn't always generate the best result, which means I'm not proud of my work. Essentially, if you are my work, I want to make sure that what you're doing is going to yield the best result. And this is why in the past I used to do social media advice or social media coaching, and I stopped doing that because I'm like, I'm not going to work on one part of the funnel with you. I want to know, how are you getting clients? What are they looking at when they're curious? And how are you talking to them? And how are you servicing them? Because if you really want a big business or you want to grow your business, it's like controlling the controllables. Would you prep a client and not do their nutrition?
No way.
Exactly.
You need to know every stage of the customer journey. I think like even just for you to have a finger on the pulse of that, like not only does the business owner need to know, and most of the time they don't, but for you to come in and segment that process, they're only going to be able to help them with a portion, but all the rest that still goes quote unquote wrong is going to be your fault. They're always going to shift blame. So
yeah, definitely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Definitely. I think, being aware of the customer journey is important, because the reason that you lose customers or don't keep customers is because they no longer need you, or they don't like what you're selling. Like they get over it, you drop the ball, there's areas of friction. I think as well, sometimes you can have the most amazing systems in business, but if there's no uptake, if people aren't using it, they don't know. So you need to know how many times are people actually logging into your app, how many times are people actually do it, like checking off workouts, logging their weights. Because if there's a reason for everything. You know, there was a study done on people who weighed themselves every day and people who didn't. They changed nothing else. And the study of people who weighed themselves lost weight, people who didn't gain weight. So like there's a purpose behind everything that you have. And you should always ask in your business, is this necessary? Like if I'm giving them this guide or this app or this thing to use, does it actually get the result? Is it necessary? And does it either slow the process down or make it more confusing, or could I get rid of it? And I think in part of managing and leading a business, you want to make sure that you're running lean or efficiently and you're generating the best result possible. So whilst you don't have to be aware of like every stage, it just does help govern decision making to a degree. Because I think a lot of coaches feel like in order to stand out and maintain or make money, they have to sell everything, like bells and whistles, shiny object syndrome. My app does everything. It will clean your house.
Consolidate processes. And if you're, like you said, if you run leaner, you can actually sell so much more.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I think it depends on what stage you're at. You know, and I don't know if you see this, but I sort of get the 30 client stagnancy with clients. Like they got 30 clients, they're making $3,000 a week and they think they're killing it. Because then tax comes and they're kind of like, where'd all my money go? Because they pay their contractor fees as well. They kind of get 30 and then it dips. 24 back to 30, dips. But then you get the 70, 75s, and then and then above and beyond. But really it's like everyone, you first want to get to 50 or you want to get to 100. People sort of set these benchmarks. And I think that a large portion of that, or a large reason behind that growth, it comes down to, depending on the kind of business, the way you built your business. Like if you did find it through Instafame or whatever, at first you can allow people just to come to you because you're riding the wave of engagement. But when that goes away, it's your product. Like when people
and if you don't have brand equity, if you don't have a good reputation, good luck.
Yeah. And that I think a couple years ago, and I don't know if this is a generational thing, like I'm sure there's the 21-year-olds that are kind of doing the same thing that I'm maybe not talking to, but a couple years ago, there are a lot of people who found a lot of success fast, and they've ticked along and been content and satisfied because they've lived nice lives as a coach. And they maybe never even wanted to have a business. Like so a lot of the time people start coaching people because they like it as a trainer. They get a result, and then they realize they can do it without going to work for someone else. And then now they're starting to say things like, I need a business coach. Like I want to work out how I make this last longer, And that's kind of where I feel there's a sort of like an element in the market where it's like, okay, well, let's like revisit what you're selling, because people aren't necessarily buying into you like they used to.
And at some point, you're going to either age out or like shiny object syndrome. Like there will be a new thing, right? Like if your business has been built off the back of like social media fame or traction, like that can only go so far, because there will be a new it thing that comes through. And if your product doesn't adjust for that, could be in a position where it's like, okay, well, 4 or 5 years down the track, how relevant am I?
Well, yeah, like thinking about threads. Remember MySpace or 9MSN? Like, what is different between my MSN status and my thread? But
nothing.
This is it. Like, it's evolution. What's the difference between Netflix and Blockbuster? Like, it's evolution, and it's the reality that we are an aging race. We're humans. Unfortunately, we age. So there's always going to be, as your total addressable market in terms of how many people need what I've got. If you start at 20, win a pro card, start a train like me challenge, whatever, your future is so bright if you make the right decisions. But unlike, that's maybe a bit of a unicorn example, but like your total addressable market will grow as people enter the market, because they're becoming old enough to afford your service, want your service, need your service, value it, 22-year-olds maybe can't find their feet on the weekend, but 24-year-olds like, I'm going to get strong. Like, and so your total addressable market grows, and as it grows, so do the people in the market, supplier and consumer. So it's just, that's why like, narrowing down on a niche can be really helpful. But yeah, you are going to age out. And what do most people do? They then start selling pregnancy programs.
Well, it's the next best thing. It's the next process. It's like you said, it's evolution, but it's more so being prepared for that, knowing that day may eventually come, that you might need to do so. And how do you prepare the business to be like anti-fragile enough to navigate those fresh waters that maybe are a bit rocky, a bit unpredictable? Because any sort of adjustment, any sort of like new market, as that TAM grows, you're in foreign land. You don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, well, there's two things. Like, one thing that you just said is, how do you make the business is like agile? How do you make sure the business is agile enough to be able to flex with it, change with it?
Yeah.
But the second thing is like, connect to your passion, because having a baby could be great for business for so many people in this industry, and then they start having baby programs come out, and it's the golden handcuffs of making money. Because you could knock it out of the park, right? Like, I guarantee you, when like Kayla Itzad did, when Lauren and Rachel have babies, I'm sure they'll knock it out of the park. But like, and it's like, okay, but what do I actually want to be doing? So you got to make sure the business can flex with it, which obviously comes down to your leadership and adaptability and your packaging and your positioning. And it's easier to do when you're a personal brand. Like it's like there's a lot of validation to, here's what I did to make $1 million in 12 months. Come with me, right? So people will do that. But on the flip side, it's like, okay, well, why did I start this business in the first place? And is this business a vessel for my ability to live my purpose in life? And do I want to take this profit and invest it into something else and diversify the market or diversify the business offering? Like, if you look at how businesses, like enterprises, right, versus service providers are right at the bottom. Like, we serve people, end user. There's so many ways to scale in terms of diversification, expanding across markets, product diversification, investing into other businesses, if you want that. And this is like what I was saying before, there's a lot of coaches who didn't necessarily want a business. They just found it.
Yes.
Or it found them. So before you go ahead and change your brand to match your life, your stage of life, consider, like, especially if you do have money in the business, this is an opportunity for you to hire someone who knows what they're doing and come out with your own insert passion product here. Like, no, it's not too late to launch a protein powder. No, the swimwear market is not saturated. Girls fly through bikinis, trust me. It's like, just pick what it is that you're passionate about. What can you build? And you got to remove that box-like thinking where the next best step is linear.
Yeah.
Like, business growth
I think so many people like almost also think their first business has to be the passion project. That like you know, maybe you've coached for 3-4 years and maybe you've lost a bit of passion for that, and that's totally okay. But if you're cash flow positive, you've made profits, you can leverage that if you continue to do so to then build the passion project. You don't need to, it's almost the reverse of the golden handcuff. Like, you don't need to stay in it just because it makes money.
Yeah.
You can use it to make the next thing make more.
Well, you could turn it into a cash cow.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like people think starting a business is so hard. And maybe starting your true passion business is hard. But like, go look around you. Go down, for me, it's 500 meters. There's a cafe. It's busy every day. There's a dry cleaner. There's a grocery store and some random liquor store up the road that gets really nice South African wine. There's supply and demand.
One customer.
Yeah. Like,
there's one customer with you.
Oh, not for now because it's dry July. But it's supply and demand. So starting a business isn't hard. Like, you just go look at what people are doing and do it better.
Yep. Or faster, or more conveniently, or less disruptive.
Exactly. So like that is how you start a business. If you don't want a job anymore, I mean, bear in mind, you will definitely have a job. But then you get to choose, okay, like if I can make more money and having a business, I can massage my money differently. How can I invest it into the business to then create what I'm truly passionate about? Like, if you have a goal to create the next Weet-Bix, don't you dare say I can't do it because Sanitarium did it better and bigger. Like, that's just like, try.
Yeah, they were once nothing.
Just try. And so maybe you validate it by first selling Corn Bix. I don't know. I was like, keep going with this first. One, Jenna. But, you know, like, you get a cafe, you validate it, becomes, look at Bennett Street Dairy. Have you got Bennett Street Dairy down there?
No.
Oh, you are missing out. So Bennett Street Dairy it's on Bennett Street in Bondi. And they have this roll of cookie. And it is so yum. Like, their cookies are so delicious. And what they've done is they got into IGA, that met cash contracts, distributors across, I think, petrol stations. They're in Woolworths. And now they're selling cookie dough, right? Like, sky's the limit.
Wow. And that would have been such a small family business. Like,
I love them.
Amazing. What's one question that you feel like no one has asked you, but you wish that they did about business?
One question.
I'm just putting my chat GPT hat on here and asking you how to ask you a question.
Yeah, fuck. Inception. Okay. I wish somebody asked me, how'd you really get started? You know, like, what's involved? Because look, I have a startup checklist. We have a startup checklist in our portal, and it's like, make sure you have an ABN and you got your domain, but that's not even it. You've already started. Make a choice, make a decision. I'm fortunate enough to have had this best friend. She's still one of my best friends. When we were growing up, we used to go for walks, and I was like, I think I want to compete. And she's like, I think I want to make muesli. And she started making muesli, and I started in the fitness realm, and I started just selling on Instagram. I didn't even know what I was selling. I didn't have a product. Like, I got Right Away really early, which I'm so grateful for. And I just started pushing this. Like, I was like, this is mad. This is what I love. And this is what I'm selling. Just start selling. Just start selling yourself, the idea, the concept to the market, establish validation, find validation, product market fit. And these are all fancy ways of saying, just fucking put it out there. Like, my friend went on to make muesli, and today she's got the contract for Bob and Pete's and supplies Australia-wide with sweets and superfoods. You know, we both just like, let's just start. And what turned into granola at F45 is now literally on the store shelves in every grocery store I go to. Her bliss balls, which I used to eat from her kitchen. She's got warehouses and factories and all the rest. And so I think a lot of people say, like, how do you do what you do? Or how do you grow? Or how do I know what to do? And I'm like, you will learn. Like, you will learn when you start, because I think in business, the greatest lesson that you can have is what doesn't work or what people feed back to you. And people are so scared of failing, but they don't teach you failure at university. You know, you can't learn from failing at university. You do it again. You do it all over again. You do the same thing over again when you fail at university. I know, because I failed statistics and I had to do it again. And like, in business, you get better and you get to do it again, but better. So
yeah. It's the only probably game in the world that you just get an infinite number of lives, because the game is only over when you stop.
Exactly. Don't let the fear
I
of
like
striking out keep you from playing the game.
Heard it here.
That just came
We're
to
just going to have
me.
a whole podcast of just quotes.
Yeah, we are.
That's all right. Just so we can have some sort of, I guess, practical application for the coaches that are listening in on this, what would be like a 3 to 5 step framework that you would that would actually get them that next 6 figures in their business?
The next 6 figures. Number 1, audit your service, audit what you're selling. Check it, look for the leaks, look for the gaps, look for areas of friction with your client, know why people leave and know why they come to you, and fix it. And number 2 would be tap into another market. How can you amortize the cost of your investment that you've invested to build the existing business, everything you've ever learned, all the time you've ever put into it? How can you just now double it? And essentially it's tap into a new market, whether you hire somebody, work with an expert, your positioning, your messaging to tap into a new market. If you work with coaches, work with gyms, and the rest. And the next one would be like really be customer obsessed. Like, so I do say survey your client, but by customer obsession, you have to have a market obsession. And I think too often I speak to trainers and I'm like, have you heard of what people are doing now? XYZ. And like, no, I haven't heard of that. Well, your clients have. So you need to know what's happening in the market. You need to look at your competitors. You need to look at market leaders. You need to look at how your target audience solves that problem today. Because if you started a business 5 years ago and 5 years ago they were downloading PDFs and taking them into the gym and loved a community group workout, it is different. The way that we consume, that our consumer behavior is changing, and you need to know that so that you can flex with it. And the other thing to grow your business would be build something. Like, how can you create your legacy, your ethos? I don't mean legacies in what you leave behind. I mean like the core of what I'm telling you, which is to make it easier, make it simpler. How can you do that for your clients? And maybe it's a tool that they're using, something that's unique to you, whether it's a framework or a platform or something that can really achieve the result and stay true to the brand.
I completely agree with that. I think like 1, customer focus, 2, audit the product, and 3, build a thing that can actually make the product better, like an ancillary value point would be.
Yeah, well, really,
Definitely.
You don't have a product. Like, you are the product as a coach. So if you really want to build a business, because you don't have one, if you stop working and you don't get paid, you really have a job for 30 people, which is actually like a nightmare. But anyway, if you
30 bosses,
if you really want to build a business, build something that runs when you're not there. And you do that by creating a need and maintaining that need. Like, you want to continue to be needed. You want to solve a problem, but what do you do then? Like, how many people leave you because they say, I think I'm going to give it a go on my own now? How many clients leave and say, it's been 6 months. I've learned everything and I'm just going to go back.
Everything I can from you.
Exactly. Yeah. They're telling you, I don't need you anymore. But people don't listen to that. They're not open to receiving that. They no longer need you. We've got to identify a new need.
Yeah, well, that's where most people say, which is somewhat true, like just because it's true doesn't mean it's right, that, yeah, they've done their job. They've done a good job. They've educated the client to do a thing. Great. What's the next thing? Because like fitness isn't like a finite game. There's no end point. Like health isn't finite. It's infinite. So like they're going to go and they're going to continue to do it. And there are going to be metrics that still need to be managed that they can improve upon.
You know what I think comes down to that as well? I think in sales, we talk a lot about problem awareness. So when somebody jumps on a call with you, it's like, what's the cost of this problem? What's the cost of staying the same? What's the ripple effect of this problem? What would happen if you never change? And then the opportunity cost of it, right? Like we all sort of understand that, I hope. But when you have a client that's been with you for 3 or 6 months, you need to be creating solution awareness. You need to sell the dream to them. They like you. They trust you. They've bought into you. They don't need problem awareness now, or maybe they do. Like maybe you raise awareness in the week 9 to 12 mark about the reality of weight regain. It's in the fitness industry, will be specific. Maybe talk about what happens when people break up with their coach. 90% of people put the weight back on. How can you bring this into your customer experience to create the need for you? But then also, it doesn't always have to be leading with fear. Like, how can you lead with love and say, understanding the power of performance goals? Imagine if you lost weight on 2,000 calories. Like, if you're not there yet, let's pump the brakes on dieting, because that's another reason why people quit. They go, I'm just going to take a break and come back. Let's plan your break. Let's make the most of this maintenance calories. And you sell them. You got to raise awareness to the importance of building muscle, building calories back up, and exiting dieting for good, right? And essentially what you're trying to sell to them is the dream. Like, be lean all year round, eat what you want, be strong, and be healthy. And that's not impossible. There's lots of people who do it because they've been in the industry for a while and they're conditioned. So like, that's what they want. You just got to make them aware that they can have it too. Because sometimes they think I'll never have abs all year round, no matter how much weight I lose. I've been here for 6 months. Well, no, Susan, you can. You probably just got another 18 months in you.
I think that's such a powerful process. Just like that, just that one phrase of solution awareness of, even if like when the first time you onboarded a client, you made them aware of the problems that they would face over the next 12 months and mapped out that product delivery journey for them. Like, well, the first this amount of time we will be doing this, then we will take a break, and then we will focus on performance. And this is why it could increase clients, business owners' LTV so infinitely, just because clients know exactly what's to come and how long they are expected to stay.
So imagine if like you actually sold a 12-month transformation for $6,000, right? Like, you get people who have done it so many fucking times. They're so exhausted of trying and failing, and they'll do whatever it takes. They've done all the Duramind drugs and shit, whatever they've done. They've damaged their metabolism and they're in a place of desperation. And you say to them, I will make sure that you lose the weight and you keep it off. It's going to be it's a harder sell, but why can't you do it? Like,
that's how we sell. Exactly. What we do.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
We go longer time commitments because, one, I'd rather sell less people over a longer period of time and just have a larger upfront of cash flow, but two, it attracts better clients.
100%. So in terms of ways that you framework to grow your business, how can you increase the quality of your customer? Increase the quality of the customer, increase the quality of the business. You get less back and forth, like customer service, touch points, having to explain to them what to do, not chasing them, not following up on them. Then they don't need to be as accountable because they're invested, and the process and the quality of the result is better. Like,
and they're just far more invested. They're ready to take action.
Exactly. Invested people are invested people. It pays to pay.
Yeah.
I've done
it. Pays dividends to the company. I could not agree more. This has been a pleasure. I could talk business with you for hours.
Me too. Great. I was just about to check the time. God, time flies.
Where can everyone find you, and what do you got going on in your world at the moment? And take your moment to plug.
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Jenna Davies, and my podcast is called She's Taking Over. The business is Big Appetite, and we would love to work with you. We do have an accelerator program. So we have the accelerator program Premium and Light. So one, which is time with me, access to our resources and library, and the other one, which is full service. Essentially, we design, develop, and build your solutions. So really, everything that you need to grow and elevate in your business. We can take advantage of our full team. So that is bigappetite.com. It's like being hungry, like big appetite, but with a U, because we are all about the upward trajectory. We are hungry for growth.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jenna. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone, make sure you comment below that this has been a good chat, and involved with the stuff, do the liking, the subscribing, do all the stuff, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.